Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So here we have a Cisco 7942G unified IP phone. And in this video I'm going to be demonstrating to you how to configure this thing on a third-party system such as FreePBX. Now before we really jump into the video, I need to say some things. Well, for one, this is really not the most recommended thing to do because of this thing's age. Like, these are old IP phones. Like, the 7900 series were, like, at least the 7942G was manufactured in, like, 2007 and considered end of life in 2016. So these are considered legacy devices at this point. Another thing is that these things were ideally not supposed to be used outside of Cisco's call manager and used on other firmware besides the Skinny protocol firmware, which is the proprietary firmware for Cisco Call Manager. And also comparing Skinny protocol firmware to SIP firmware, yeah, the Skinny protocol firmware is like more stable, offers more features and all that stuff compared to SIP. And Cisco probably did that on purpose because, I mean, they want your money. They want you to use their stuff. Yeah, so in order to get this thing working on a third-party system, such as FreePBX, you need SIP firmware. And you have to do this by uploading it via a TFTP server. And TFTP stands for Trivial File Transfer Protocol. And, well, when I've been doing my research online, it seems that there are lots of articles, well, I don't know if I should say lots, but several articles and videos and such on trying to explain how to do these, but honestly, a majority of those things, like, seem to leave out things or had incorrect information, or was honestly even a bit overcomplicated. But I guess even in today's day and age, like, people still seem to be interested in configuring these things on third-party systems because probably a couple things. So for one, these things are pretty inexpensive used. Like, I got this thing for like 15 bucks, maybe even 12, I don't know. And another thing is that these things have good build quality to them. Like, these do not feel cheaply made at all, and yeah, they don't feel like they're going to be giving out anytime soon. So yeah. And some info about SIP as well, since we're going to be using SIP firmware. Yeah, SIP is the newer and more open standard protocol compared to Skinny protocol. Well, because yeah, Skinny is proprietary to Cisco Call Manager only anyway. Yeah, SIP is newer and open standard. Like, for instance, these newer Polycom VVX phones use SIP. And even the newer Cisco phone models use SIP as well, such as the 7800 right here, and the Cisco SPA series right here. Like, the SPA series uses SIP out of the box, really. And for the 7800, well, you have to make sure that you get the 3PCC firmware for these things. And 3PCC stands for Third-Party Call Control. And that's pretty self-explanatory. These things can be used outside of Call Manager on third-party IP PBXs, and it therefore uses SIP as well. Another thing I should have mentioned about the limitations about this old device is that these older Cisco 7900s do not have a web interface for configuration, unlike its newer alternatives like the 78 or the Cisco SPA. You have to, the only way to configure this thing is via XML files, in which that you have to upload to the phone using a TFTP server again. And yeah, every time you make a change to it, you have to be sure you hook it up to a TFTP server and upload the new file to make sure it you know, to make it change. And yeah, it's not like if you were to type in this phone's IP address in a web browser that you'd be able to find a web interface for this thing. So this thing is, yeah, kind of a pain in the butt to do. So just thought I'd mention that to you before we really get started. Alright, so now let's get started on the server side of things. So same as last time, I'm running FreePBX in a virtual machine using VirtualBox. And go to a web browser right here, and this is my web interface of my FreePBX server. So I have pre-made a few extensions, including the extension for the Cisco 7942G. So let's open this up. So for this extension, I'm using a CHAN legacy SIP driver and not PJ SIP, and it is using port 5160. And about the secret, it can only be 8 characters long, and it must be numerical only. So for this case, I just did 1234 1234, and voicemail is enabled and require it from the same extension. Now let's go to advanced. See here. So NAT mode needs to be set to never. The port stays at 5060, and qualify is set to no. And for send RPID, that needs to be set to send remote party ID header. Okay. And then I think, let's see here, we go to CHAN. Yeah, we go to asterisk SIP settings, and we go to CHAN legacy SIP settings. Alright, so we need to, okay, so NAT needs to be set to no, and we also need to disable SRV lookups. So when right here where it says enable SRV lookup, set that to no. And honestly, you should be good to go on the server side of things. So now to start the configuration for the phone itself, you need to obtain SIP firmware, since FreePBX is a SIP system. And really, I just opened another tab and googled Cisco's 7942G SIP firmware download. And, well, it wasn't the first one, but it was the second one I clicked on. So it takes you to the product on the Cisco website. And go to downloads. And then here, right here, SIP software. And then all releases right here. So there you go. These are the different firmware versions for SIP that you can put on the 7942G. And okay, so let's talk about the version I use. Let's go version 8 right here. So I actually used version 8-5-4S firmware because that seems to be one of the most stable ones. And, well, even like other ipPBXs such as 3CX wants you to use 8-5-4S. And yeah, I've even tested this myself, and it works. I mean, another thing about my research for trying to configure this thing was, yeah, the different sources were also, like, leaving out what firmware to use, or if they did say the firmware, it was, you know, an older firmware, or even, like, or just an overall different version firmware, and it just never seemed to work. But anyway, I do know for sure that this works. I've tried it myself. So, yeah. And when you download it, well, you have to be signed into an account. But, yeah, you can just make an account for free and be able to download a majority of these software versions for free. So when you download it, do not download the one that says .cop.sgn. Make sure to just get the one that says SIP 8-5-4 zip. And yeah. So another thing about these Cisco phones, or at least this particular model being listed as end of life, is that when they were considered end of life, they basically just provided a majority of these SIP firmware versions on their website, and as long as you have a free account, yeah, you can download a majority of these firmwares for free, no charge. So at least we have that. So upon downloading those files from the Cisco website, you should get these similar types of files in whatever folder you told it to download into. So upon downloading those firmware files, you'll get a bunch of SBN files and loads files. So besides the firmware files, the other two main things that you need to get this working is the XML configuration file right here and the dialplan XML file. And let's see, for the configuration XML file, when you're done editing it, you need to be sure that you save it as capital SEP, and then right after that, with no spaces or anything, put the phone's MAC address, and then .cnf.xml to make it an XML document. And well, if you're doing it in Windows, well, let's actually do this. Edit. So like if you go to save it right here, save as, be sure to save it .cnf and then .xml like this right here, and make it all files, not .txt, or else that will not save it right and it will be rejected by the phone. Yes. So anyway, besides that, let's actually just so let's open this up. Just double click it and it takes you to a browser that just shows you what it looks like. So right here, so for the name section, well no, actually that's not important, that's just NTP. But well, okay, for this name section, that's right below the call manager little section right here. You put the FreePBX server's address, so 192.168.1.159. That's my server. SIP port 5160. Set it to 5160 because we are using the Chan Legacy SIP driver in FreePBX, and that uses 5160. Process node name, same thing. FreePBX server address. Let's see here. And then phone label right here, I would just put something like the extension number 103, and that will appear at the top right corner of the phone screen. So here we have this section for line button 1. So for feature label, I just put Cisco 7942G. Name is the extension number 103. Display name, same thing, 103, at least in my case. Contact is the extension number 103. Port 5160. Let's see here. And then auth name is 103 as well, the extension number, at least in FreePBX. And the auth password is, yeah, well, is the 8-character password, since it can't take anything larger than that because of this thing's age, and you just have to accept limitations. So just like as we configured in FreePBX, the auth password, or the secret, is 12341234. And usually the extension number in FreePBX for voicemail is *97, so put that right there. And that looks good for a configuration file. When you are editing this configuration file, only alter anything that is in between this greater than and less than sign, because starting from the greater than or less than sign and beyond is part of the template, and you do not want to screw up the template itself, or else the whole file is rejected and it will indicate errors in the TFTP server. I will also post a working template of this file in the description, just so you guys can get a working template of this. And this is just a more minimal template as well. It only has one line button on it and stuff like that. Also, here's the dial plan file right here. Let's actually click on that. So this is what my dial plan template looks like. I will also link this in the description. And yeah, so once you dial a number, it waits 2 seconds and then dials a number. And yeah, you need a dial plan for your phone to work properly, or else when you try to dial a number, like, it just instantly gives you the reorder tone, or like the busy tone pretty much. Alright, so now that we have obtained all the necessary files to get this working, now we can start setting up the TFTP server. But before we do that, there are a few things that we need to take care of. So for one, we need to be sure that every other device except the Cisco phone and the computer with TFTP is disconnected from the switch. This yellow one is a computer right here for TFTP. And of course, be sure you're using Ethernet to do this. But actually, an exception for this would be other IP phones. It actually doesn't really matter if they're plugged into the switch too. They won't really be causing any problems, because I've even tried that for myself. So anyway, and this white one is the router cable. You definitely don't want that plugged in. That's going to be causing problems, and the TFTP is going to be giving you errors such as message on unbound interface and stuff like that. So when we plug in the Cisco phone into the switch, there's kind of a quick timing event that we need to do, which is actually factory resetting it. And yeah, I mean, you gotta do it pretty fast as well. So anyway, let's plug in the Cisco phone into this PoE switch here. And there we go, it's booting up. Hit the pound sign, hold it down, and you'll see that the line keys are flashing up and down now. So now we need to push 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, *0 pound. And there, now you'll get a screen like this that says upgrading, and it is actually looking for a TFTP server now. So we are all set there. So now back to the computer side of things. We need to make sure the firewall is disabled. So just like open the search bar, type firewall, and click on Windows Firewall right here in the control panel. And yeah, I mean, it needs to be all turned off, and you can do this by clicking turn Windows Firewall on or off. And yeah, just select these two options right here and you're all set. Because actually, if you leave the firewall on, it will be causing problems, and it'll give you like a similar error, like message on unbound interface, blah blah blah. So anyway, now to the Ethernet adapter side of things. We need to open Network and Sharing Center, and we need to, well, mine's disabled. I need to re-enable it. Just double click it. Alright, so it's enabled. Now we need to go to Ethernet right here. Click Properties, IPv4, and we need to use a static IP of basically a gateway address. So for my case, it's 192.168.1.1 and 255, 255, 255, and 0. Okay, so we're all set there. Close this all out. And now we need to actually open up the TFTP server software. So I use TFTP D64 by Jonin. So let's go ahead and open that up. Alright, so we are in the TFTP software now, or the server software. This is what it looks like. I just have it full screen. So anyway, to get this working right, we need to change some settings within the software. So right down here, click Settings, and it brings us up a menu right here. So under the Global tab, we need to be sure that we have TFTP server, TFTP client, syslog server, and DHCP server selected. And let's see, under TFTP, I don't think there's really that much. I think these are mostly just default settings. You can also change the base directory. But under DHCP, there are a few things that we need to be sure we have in there. So for the IP pool start address, I put 192.168.1.2 because the gateway is .1.1. The size of the pool is something big, like 250, and yeah, the least minute is 2,880 minutes. So under DHCP options, for the first box I put .1.1 again, and the second one 255.255.255.0, and I actually don't use any additional options either. And yeah, bind DHCP to this address, which is .1.1. And I think those are really the main settings in this menu that we need to do. I don't think there's really anything else under syslog or DNS or anything. So now we need to be sure that we have the correct directory selected. So you can change this by hitting the browse button right up here. And well, in my particular case, the folder I'm using for this one is in the desktop. So this is it right here for 8-5-4S. So select that. So now that is a directory it will pull from, and therefore transfer the files to the phone. And yeah, use the software loopback address as the interface. And now let's go to log viewer. And then pretty soon we'll start seeing some magic happen. Yep, you can see some stuff happening in the log viewer right here. Stuff is happening. It's mostly DHCP stuff. Okay, now it's actually transferring files. And if you look at the phone right now, you see a bunch of boxes, and you actually see a percentage of progress. So that means this is working right. And you see boxes are getting checked off as well. So this is a good sign, it is working. And you'll see there's actually a bunch of activity within the switch as well, as in the status lights flickering very rapidly. Alright, it looks like it's actually done, and it's actually, yeah, the boxes are shading in. That's also a good sign. It's doing something. And there you go. We even have a check mark as well. That's a good sign. And something else I need to mention is that, well, when it starts working, as in like when it says it's going to start registering, that's when I'll then proceed to close out the TFTP software and reconnect the router cable, or really the cable that's going to the other switch, which then goes to another switch, and that switch has the router plugged into it. And that's also where the FreePBX server's Ethernet cable is plugged into. And there's going to be more files that say that are going to send, and it's going to give you some errors on some of them because like soft keys and the ringtones and all that, and TLV files, those are not important. Okay, so it's registering now. That's good. So now close out TFTP, and I think it sent the last one, like softkeys.xml. Yeah, I did. Close it out. And now we're going to reconnect the other switch cable, which therefore goes to the FreePBX server and really the router. And yeah, it's going to start configuring its IP again because you just reconnected it to like an actual network. So it needs a real IP address, unlike what TFTP gave it, because I mean that was just basically replicating a DHCP server, but now it's actually connected to real DHCP. Sorry, it's DHCP. Yeah, it might be a little sluggish at times. But once again, it's old. It just takes time to figure out some stuff. And boom, it just registered just like that. You'll know it registered right when you don't see an X next to the phone symbol, which is right next to the label, and it says your current options. And obviously, you'll know it registered if you push the line key or speakerphone, and you get a dial tone. So now that this thing just registered properly, let's actually test it out. So let's hit speakerphone, and one of the extensions that I have on FreePBX is 101. Come on. So that is working properly. Check. 1, 2, 3. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. Check, check. This is working properly. Let's push hold now on this phone. Excuse the focusing there. Push hold. That seems to work right. One, two, three. So that seems to be working right. And now actually, let's do it the other way around. So let's go to this spa phone, which is also dual registered to FreePBX, which is a second line key. And let's dial the Cisco phone's extension, the 7900. So that was 103. Check. 1, 2, 3. This is a test. 1, 2, 3. Check, check, check. So it is working both ways. And now let's actually, well, let's go back over here and call it again, but this time not answer and leave a message for it.
The person at extension 103 is unavailable. Please leave your message after the tone. When done, hang up or press the pound key.
This is a test message. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Testing. 1, 2, 3. And boom. It has received a voicemail, and you can tell when the handset is lit up solid red. So now let's test out the voicemail button, in which we told it to go to star 97 when we push this button.
Password.
That is working.
You have one new message. Press 1 for new first message.
This is a test message. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Press 3 for advanced options. Press 5 to repeat the current message. Press 7 to delete this message. Message deleted. No more messages. Goodbye.
Alright, so it is working properly. So, from the dashboard, if we click Applications, and we go to Paging and Intercom right over here, I have actually set up a page group as well, extension 300, and if we look at it, let's see here. Yeah, the other phones that I have on the server are configured as that paging group. So basically these other two phones right here. So anyway, let's go to this phone over here. Hit speakerphone. If it'll focus. And hit 300. Attention. 1, 2, 3, 4. Check. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. So, paging is working right. And yeah, I just paged into both of these phones at the same time and did like a paging announcement. And yeah, that is just one-way audio. So now if you want to like intercom to an individual phone, it's like star 80 and then that extension number. So let's do star 80 101. Hopefully you just heard that beep there. And it is actually two-way audio and intercom calls. Hello? Check. 1, 2, 3. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. So basically I just intercommed into that phone, and the phone automatically answered that call and put me to the speakerphone. So that's a pretty neat feature. And yeah. Alright everybody, so this has been a video over configuring the Cisco 7942G on FreePBX. And this method usually works for a majority of other third-party SIP systems as well. And yeah, this has been a long video too, probably. But thank you all for watching the video, and you guys have a nice day.